This is 15.3, amortization with a financial calculator. I always seem to stumble on that word. And amortization is just a breakdown of your payments. It shows each payment, principal, interest, how much the payment was itself, how much it decreases your balance, and you can look at this for an entire loan, which is pretty cool. It's interesting information also. If you're paying your loan off with a series of payments, then it's an amortized loan. Gosh, I think I left out a letter there. And then to use our financial calculator for amortizations, we have to have a loan entered using the TVM keys. So that's always an important thing. So if you try to go to your amortization keys and you don't have a loan in, then it's not going to work, obviously. I have an Excel spreadsheet on the same page as these videos in your lesson, so it's in step 2 of lesson 10. You can look at the amortization spreadsheet. You can actually put all kinds of information in. So if you're planning to get a loan, you have a loan, you'll see different categories that you fill out, and you can do that for yourself and just take a look at everything. So we're going to be using the TVM registers and the amortization functions. We have to use the TVM to do the amortization every time. So there's some important keys on your calculator. If you take a look at your calculator right above PV, you will see the word AMORT. And so the way we get to the amortization keys is to push second AMORT, and then you will see these arrows and different things. So when you push second PV, the first thing you're going to see is, well, you're going to use your keys on your calculator to scroll down and scroll up, and we're going to use the word enter. And so all of this is important to get to your keys. So second PV puts you in the amortization schedule. You would have to have a loan on your calculator to really see what's going on. And then this is a look at the actual calculator, right? So you've got your enter key and your up and down arrows and AMORT. So we use second AMORT to get there, and then the up and down arrows to look at the different categories. So the first one that you would see when you push second PV is the one that says P1 equals. Well, that's your beginning payment number. So we can put whatever payment number we want on the beginning payment number as long as it's within the loan. So if the loan's a 30-year loan, we could actually put the number 360 here if we're just looking at the last payment. And so P1 is the beginning payment number for whatever we're trying to look at. And then when you push your arrow down, you will see P2 equals, and right, it usually says 1 right at this point. And so we can also put any number of the loan payment number in this. It's our ending payment. So the ending payment can't be a number that's before the beginning payment. I think that would make sense. It can be the same number, but it has to either be the same or later than the beginning payment. And so then you can use your P1 or your arrows to go up and down. So you can go back to P1 or down to P2. Remember, beginning payment, ending payment, not payments 1 and 2, just wherever it is you want to start and end. They're just registers for our payment numbers. So P1 is always register 1. And P2 is always register 2, and that means beginning payment, ending payment. And so if you wanted information about the first year of your loan, you would put a 1 in for P1 and a 12 in for P2, and then we're looking at 12 payments. What we would find is what the balance would be in the interest and principal. If you wanted information about the second year of your loan, then you would enter 13 and 24. Now, this is just considering January through December. We've got some other things we'll talk about later. So that would be the second year of your loan, payments 13 through payment 24. And hopefully if you just kind of count that up and think about it, right? If we end year 1 on payment 12, then we start year 2 with payment 13. Okay, so we're going to put a mortgage in so that we can talk about this more. And we've got to get everything in our calculator correctly. Don't forget on your interest rate here that you have to take 7 divided by 8 plus 4 divided by 12 equals, because your calculator rounds, it has to be set on 2 decimal points. Oh, that's an important point. Because we're using TVM keys to get to amortization keys, we still have to have our calculator set on 2 decimal places. So make sure that you get that set up right. All right, so this loan is 30 years, $109,000, and so let's get started filling in our registers. You just mainly have to get this in here right. So it's 4 7/8% divided by 12. Make sure you put it in this way. All right, it has to be entered like that. And then it's 109,000. Our future value, of course, is 0 because that's where we're heading, right? We want to get to 0 at the end of the loan. And then we're going to then be computing our payment. So be sure and pause and compute your payment. And then we put the payment here. It is $576.84. Notice I always put that negative in there because it is a payment. All right. You have to make sure that your calculator says the same thing as mine, okay? And we're not going to clear the TVM keys because we're going to be using amortization along with this loan. Okay, so if you look at an amortization schedule, these are the numbers you would see. Remember, our payment is the $576.84. This shows the breakdown of principal and interest for each of the first 3 payments. And then it also shows us this total of our interest and total of the principal paid for the first 3 payments. Now, notice how much more the interest is than the principal. It's a 30-year loan, and this is pretty much how it works. You're always paying a lot more interest in the beginning and less principal. So your loan does not decrease very quickly. In fact, it seems extremely slow if you're looking at those numbers. Now, I want you to look at your calculator to see the numbers, the 442.81 and the 134.03. We're actually going to look at our amortization keys on our calculator and see these numbers. Okay, so if we want to look at just one payment, then the numbers are the same for the beginning payment and the ending payment. Remember, this is beginning. Whoops, I still have my circle going there. Beginning payment. And this is our ending payment number. And for this case, we are looking at just payment 1. So that means we're going to say my beginning payment is payment 1, my ending payment is payment 1, so therefore I'm only looking at one payment. So when you do this, excuse me, I'm sorry. You're going to be able to look at each of these balance, principal, and interest, and it's actually in that order too. So when you go second AMORT, remember to do that, second AMORT on your calculator, that is above the key PV. So you're going to click second PV. For payment 1, right, our beginning payment, P1, we're going to put a 1. Push your enter button, right? You have to use the word enter. Then scroll down and make sure you have a 1 in P2 and use your enter key there. Then when you scroll down one more, you're going to be on the balance. So you should see this number, 108,000. Remember, this loan started at 109,000, so it's reduced just a little bit. The amount of principal we paid for this payment is going to show you a negative on that. So I think it usually shows the balance as a negative too. 134.03, and then our interest amount is 442.81. So if you go back to our chart, you're going to see those very same numbers. And that's kind of how our amortization keys work. I think they're pretty interesting, really, if you take a look at them. Now we're going to look at payment number 2. So let's look at payment number 2. For payment number 2, our beginning payment will be 2 and our ending payment will be 2. This is how you look at just one payment. So when you enter these numbers, make sure you push your enter key, the word enter, and then you should be able to scroll down to find your balance of 108,731.40, right? And then our principal amount is 134.57. Interest amount is 442.27. And if you look back at the chart, you're going to see that these numbers match. So remember, second AMORT, right? Second PV, put in a 2, push enter. For P1, scroll down, put in a 2, push enter for P2. And then we're going to do this one more time. All right, so for payment number 3, we're going to put a 3 for P1, push enter, a 3 for P2, push enter, and then our new balance is 108,596.28. This is money we owe, right? Our principal this time we're paying 135.12. Our interest is 441.72. And once again, check your chart and you're going to see that these numbers match. And don't forget to pause here because I may go faster than you're ready for. And then if we look at the total of those 3 payments, this is a cool part of this. We can actually look at all 3 together. So P1 is going to be 1 and P2 is 3. So just make sure you type in the number 1, push enter when you're on the P1 screen, type in the number 3, press enter for P2, and we'll see the same balance as we did on the 3rd payment because we're still looking at that. And then here's the total amount of interest we have paid, 403.72. Once again, refer back to your chart and you'll see these totals. 1,326.80 is the total amount of our interest, and then we'll be able to see that. Now leave these numbers on here for the next slide or for the next video, because I'll probably talk about this more on the next video. Okay, so I'm going to stop the video and start again.